Good morning, everybody. We are out and about. I decided to just do the ups and downs walking about today. No fancy graphics because I don't think there's going to be that many ups with the ups and downs series. I want to try and mix it with you guys and actually bring to you some ups and some downs, and that's when you get all the fancy schmancy graphics, but there's no point today because it's going to be a tough one to find some ups. So let's start off with one up anyway. It's not the end of the world, right? It's not doomsday. It's not game over. Leeds still have a long way to go in the Premier League season, which is what I get told all the time in general. And that is true to a certain extent. I mean, by the meaning of time, Leeds United do have a lot of time left until the end of the Premier League season. So that is an up. There we go. Done. And they have West Ham, don't they? The Leeds have got West Ham on Friday night where, I mean, will it be enough to a certain extent? I'm not sure, because I think we needed to pick up 6 points in 4 games, which comprised of Burnley. And even if we were to beat West Ham, it would right some of those wrongs. But then I think now we've got to go to Forest and probably win as well. You know, with the context of the games that Leeds have got coming up in the winter period and probably the lack of points that we're going to get in that period, this is a stockpiler, okay? So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that, really. But looking at some downs, I'm going to start off with sort of the board and what they've given Daniel Farke. Now, I'm not like a lot of maybe the majority who are thinking our recruitment has been absolutely abhorrently bad. I don't think it has been. Do I think it was good? I think it was all right. It was okay. But the board could have done a heck of a lot more to give Leeds United a chance, a real chance. And I think they've underestimated, once again, which really boils my piss, they've underestimated how big this jump is, and they shouldn't have underestimated that. They've been part of the process with the previous ownership, said that we were going to do things different. We had the most lucrative and expensive squad in the Championship, and we all knew that, which was great. But you're in the Premier League now, and I'm looking at Aronson and Harrison either side. And it's not just to look at those two. You know, the whole squad was poor, but just on a squad value basis. And when I say value, I just mean the quality and the calibre. And you're probably looking at, you know, quantitative value there as well. But I'm just talking about the value of a player in the Premier League. I don't think Aronson and Harrison provide that. And I think our fan base will, you know, jump through hoops and do everything to almost validate the working hard, the endeavour, the energy that they both do. I mean, put me on a pitch for Leeds United, I'd run around and press a lot. I'd get myself in the best shape possible to do that. I need to be able to offer more at Premier League level. And I was having a look at some of our Championship squads this morning, and I reckon I looked at about 20, and none of the front line was as bad as what it was yesterday in terms of the options that we had, whether or not it be Ramzani, Nonso, James or Solomon. It wasn't as bad as what it was yesterday. That's the board's fault. You know, it's the board's fault that you've let maybe Ramazani go and Joseph go, and you've brought in the Premier League, and I'm not saying Ramazani and Joseph would have done anything, by the way, guys, that's the context, but they've gone, and then you've brought in, you know, Metcha, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Okafor, all of which have had the problems when it comes to availability and durability, which is also a big factor in their careers very recently. That's just, it's abhorrently bad when it comes to an attacking presence, when the manager's coming out as well and saying that there needs to be additions towards the back end of the window, then you don't get any. That's really, really bad from an optics perspective. And Parag in particular, who is obviously involved at Rangers as well, isn't doing that well from an optics perspective at all. And we've seen with everything that's gone on with Russell Martin and the debacle up there, just in terms of a management, look, we know Kavanagh leads it, don't we? But obviously Parag's got input up there as VP. It's not looking good. It doesn't look good from an optics perspective, and it's not looked good for Parag so far this season. So, you know, when you take away from the board, Leeds, I think the obvious thing is Leeds have to go and do stuff in January. If they don't, I do think we'll go down. I've said that all along. I think Leeds have to reinforce in that front line and maybe a little bit more, but there has to be potentially 2 or 3 more. Now, another down. Daniel Farke. I think it doesn't really surprise me, Farke, anymore. Like, I know what he's going to do. You know, I was saying, we were talking yesterday about the pre-game, about what Leeds can do. What can we do, right? You're looking at we knew two days before, Nonso's out, James is out. all the lads are out. They're all out. All the width is gone, okay? So you're thinking to yourself, what can you do to adapt? Now, you get people telling you that, you know, managers can't do this, they can do this. Managers can change systematically, of course they can. They can have varied systems in the back pocket. I don't care how complicated people will tell you it is to then defend Farke. I call it the FDL, the Farke Defence League. Over here, we try to be a little bit more balanced, with the board being at fault, in my opinion. The players been at fault as well for yesterday's terrible performance, but of course, the manager as well, who picks the side, who can pick the out-of-form players. Now, when you're looking at a game-specific analysis, right, we're looking at Leeds versus Burnley versus Leeds yesterday. There is ways of which he could have won that game, in my opinion. I think he could have gone to a back three, of which we've played before in pre-season, of which the players that we have available right now you can acclimatise to a back three 100%, especially when you keep hold of Strauch in the summer. We all thought he'd go. They kept hold of him. Beale's played in the back three, Strauch's played in the back three, Rodon's played in the back three. Why can we not move to a back three? We can't do it because I don't know if Farke believes in that. I don't know what it is from his perspective. I don't know. Maybe it's just his perspective that he doesn't think it'll work, and he thinks maybe there's more value in starting Harrison and Aronson, which I think that's a damning indictment on Daniel Farke if that's genuinely what he believes. And there will be a lot of analysis, I think, coming out from really reputable sources over the next coming days, whether or not it be The Athletic or other bits as well, probably focusing a lot more on Daniel Farke. And he does read these bits, we all know he does, because as I've mentioned before, he addresses them all the time in his press conference, so he's very aware of what's being said about him. And it's kind of got to that point now where it feels like when you've got a player who's in the ranks, who is an asset, they have to be playing when it comes to Beale. They have to be playing. Someone who's got the most clearances in Europe last season. What is the point? What's the point in him being here? And that's where you've got to look at Daniel Farke, because there is systematic changes that you can imprint on this side, no matter how much. And you know, if you're part of this FDL, that's fine. But you've got to. I feel that there has got to be an understanding that systematically he can change. And when you look at that Burnley game in particular, he's got players on the bench in Peru, in Mecha, in Tanaka, all of which can change a game against Burnley. Burnley, and I'm not saying Leeds won't go down here, Burnley will get relegated. Okay, they will get relegated. So surely you've got enough on that bench to impact the game. Surely on 45 minutes, when you can see a game going a certain way, you can make changes. Why do we always have to wait till the 65th minute then to make changes, to then effectively narrow our window to get anything from the game? Nothing ever changes. We know how this game's going to go. Every single Leeds fan I had yesterday, at one point, 1,700 people in my watch along. Everybody was saying the same thing who was commenting. Make changes at half-time. Bring Tanaka on. Can we go to a front two? Can Tanaka be in the 8? Can we put Stack in his regular position of a number 6? Can we do that? No, we don't. We do the same thing all the time. We pursue, and then Aronson and Harrison shockingly come off in the 65th, 70th minute after doing nothing, of which we all predicted in the pre-game stuff. It's just, you know, and that's another down. And I feel like there's going to be a force now of which probably sees Strauch coming out and Beale going in. But to an extent, I'm a little bit like, well, you kind of don't. It feels like it's been pressured to do that right now. So it's not like, you know, oh, Connor, you're never happy. It's not about that. But I feel like I want him to make these changes more proactively. I feel like he's a reactive manager. And this is the problem, I think, with him a lot of times. You know, you saw Scott Parker yesterday change before the game because he knew what Daniel Farke was going to do. You know, and that's 0-3 now, like on Daniel Farke, like Eustace had on him, like Russell Martin had on him. And it feels like when there's kind of these repeated patterns with Farke up against these managers, he doesn't learn. He doesn't learn, and that's the thing, that's the worrying thing, and I guess that's another down. And it's not to go too hard on Daniel Farke, but ultimately, I believe there was differences he could have done yesterday. Would I put Joel Peru on against Bournemouth, or would I put Peru on against, you know, some of the top teams? Probably not. I'd have an argument against putting Peru on, albeit maybe sort of like 5-10 minutes in when we're chasing a goal. But against Burnley, once again, context, it's Burnley. I feel that Peru could do something, you know, in almost that number 10 position, just in behind the striker. You know, at points, you're looking at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and we could all say before the game, and it's another down, isn't it? We all knew that he was going to be isolated because you're not going to get those players in and around him, Harrison and Aaronson, and they're not going to then be able to produce quality. So how can we all see this and he can't? And it's like, oh, no, you know, I've got no option. No, you do have options against Burnley. You do have options, you know? So that's the worry as well a little bit. I guess the down is also the players. You know, massive question marks over Anton Stack at the minute. I think it's been a real mess start. And I have to say, sorry as well. Yesterday I kind of came out and mentioned with Pascal that he should have gone out and engaged, you know, with obviously Burnley's second goal, which was a stunner. Looked like Stack kind of came out of position and, you know, was in a little bit of that framework, and then that framework, their player obviously picked up that little gap and then put it into the top corner. Wonderful finish. But I ultimately on the watch along said it's Struijk. But there's three of them. You know, there's three of them that can be at fault for that. There's Stack, who was moved out of position. There's Struijk, who gave the initial pass away in the first phase of Burnley attacking down our side. And there's also then Struijk and Ampadu, who just kind of leisurely get out to the lad before he hits the ball. That's on the players. It's at the end, the endeavour, the energy, the commitment, the grit, the determination to block that shot. There was nothing there. It was pathetic. So there's a lot on the players as well. I thought there was players hiding yesterday, if I'm honest with you. You know, as a midfielder who has played at a decent level, I know when I'd be like hiding from the ball. I know what I'd be doing to hide from the ball. I thought there were players hiding yesterday in that midfield. I'll be honest with you. And I don't think it's acceptable for us to lose that midfield battle, especially in that first half. I thought Burnley just dropped off in the second half because they didn't need to do anything. So about us gaining control and having shot after shot after shot and this, that and the other with possession, it was game state. It's game state, isn't it? You know, it's very different. Burnley score a goal, they're just going to sit back, you know. They know they're going to be able to defend up against the Daniel Farke system. We know there's going to be change. Parker will have known there'll have been changed on 65 minutes, of which then more will have followed to, you know, throw something at a wall and see if it sticks. But I don't think it'll have really bothered Parker to sit back. I think that was the instruction, because you saw like a much less sort of advanced Burnley. And I don't think that's because Leeds were dictating the game. I don't think that's what it was whatsoever. But then, you know, another down is Al Tanaka coming on the 81st minute. You know, Aaronson comes back from international duty. Tanaka comes back from international duty. Tanaka gets 9 minutes. Aaronson gets 65. And there's changes that you can make. You know, people on here always want to, oh, Connor, what would you do if you were a manager? I'm not a manager. Done a bit of coaching before, but I think, you know, sometimes it is a little bit leading the blind when it comes to the conclusions. I think in a game like yesterday, systematically, there could have been a bit of a difference. I think personnel could have come on a lot earlier. And another down, I guess it's bringing Tanaka on a little bit earlier, you know, but it's all comprising the same thing. We're all talking about the same thing. You know, I do look at Daniel Farke and the players yesterday because we're talking specifically about Burnley, but the overall issue drags the 49ers into it as well, because the 49ers, from an attacking sense, have had a whimper of a window. And you kind of do look at it now, don't you, when you think to yourself, without us actually bringing in an established number 9, as much as we gave Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Metcha, we've given them so much rope, and I'm happy with DCL so far. I like the profile of Metcha, but are they goal scorers? They're not, are they? They're not goal scorers. They're facilitators. They'll help Leeds get up the pitch. They'll win knock-ons. But then if you're not winning the second balls, the third balls, the fourth balls, in and around the big man up top, what's the point in playing in and around and off Dominic Calvert-Lewin? You know, I thought DCL and this, I guess, is a slight up, and I guess this is mixed up, everybody, when it comes to these ups and downs, but we're just on rant mode now. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin with a couple of flick-ons yesterday. I mean, he got one in the first 2 minutes. Aaronson's got the whole right side to run into, then he trips over the ball. And Brendan Aaronson, in my opinion, is not a Premier League footballer. Jack Harrison is not a Premier League footballer. So, look, I guess once again, this is the ups. Okafor is going to be available, but how long is Okafor going to be available for? How durable is Noah Okafor through a Premier League season after not really being durable in a Serie A campaign last season? You know, and this is kind of where I look at it, and I worry a little bit, because Farke can't really do anything about that when it comes to the overall pie. If you've got let's say a Metcha and a Dominic Calvert-Lewin out for a sustained period of time, he can't do anything, and then we can go, well, it's the board. But as of right now, against Burnley, when you've got options on the bench to maybe change system, I do look at the manager. And when we're just looking at that analytical stance of the Burnley game, I thought from all ends up, it was a poor showing from Leeds United as a club. So yeah, look guys, there's been so many bits we've gone on about. I want the ups and downs to be a little bit more structured every single week. And that's what it was the last time Leeds United played, of course, but I'm struggling with ups. I'm really struggling with the ups in this one, so it doesn't really feel like the series would be beneficial without any ups. So let me know in the comment section below, can you cheer me up? You know, what can you say about the game yesterday? Is there anything different that you want to put in there? We are going to be live with the Hardline tonight, which I'm going to be interested to hear Gabe's thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, everybody. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.